Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome from wherever you are in the world to today's webinar. I'm super excited to get into the content with you. I'm going to let people trickle in over the course of about 60 seconds before we actually get started because there's so much to cover. There's just a lot we're going to get through today, both a little bit in slides, but a lot of it's going to be in Apollo. And so I want to know as you guys join, uh, how long does it take you to contact your inbound leads today? What is that time looking like? Drop it into the chat. I'm keeping an eye on it while we have people trickle in. Joe's saying 10 minutes, 30 minutes, too long, says Christine. 25 minutes, infinity from Abhinav. I'm excited to see this. Service bell gives me under 30 seconds. That's great. Less than 20 minutes, 5 minutes or less, 20, 30 minutes, less than 24 hours. Cool. We're seeing some really good answers. No inbounds, all outbound. William, I hope this webinar will be useful for you. Okay. So what inbound leads, says Justin. I feel that pain. Waiting on a HubSpot Apollo integration. Josh, we have a HubSpot integration, and I'll show you how it works right now in today's webinar. Okay. Most of it is spam, says Donna, matter of minutes. Hardy, I'm going to get into my tips and tricks. That's what this webinar is all about. Zoho integration, Abhinav, not yet. It's coming soon. I think it's on the roadmap. Actually, I don't want to speak to that for sure. But you can use Zapier to create an integration between Zoho. Okay, so Tim is asking to create a process where our reps' leads are higher quality. Yeah, Tim, we're going to talk about how to do that for your inbound leads today, and I'll show you exactly how it works. For anybody wondering if the webinar is recorded, that's how I know I should get started. There's a pinned comment to the top of the chat that tells you it is. So our agenda today, I'm going to run through a little bit of housekeeping. I'll introduce myself briefly for those of you who don't know me. We will talk about inbound lead flow and what that should look like. Then we're going to jump into Apollo, and I'm actually going to build out everything I show you in the slides in the Apollo, in the real world, in Apollo, in HubSpot, on my website. We're going to talk about the sequences a little bit, and then I'll do a Q&A. So please stay to the end. This is the ultimate inbound sales process, and it's sponsored by Apollo, which is my employer. If you're not familiar with Apollo, if you don't have an account, you can create one at apollo.io, and you can make an account for free. Apollo is the world's only end-to-end sales engine with everything that you need to run a cutting-edge, world-class sales process. Okay, so a little bit of housekeeping. We are recording the session. We record every webinar. And at the end of every webinar, we post them on Apollo Academy. If you're not familiar with Apollo Academy, you can find it on the Apollo website right here and just go to resources and then Academy. I maintain this. My team owns this. We have a ton of content on Apollo Academy, including a bunch of content about how to use Apollo. And if you're not familiar with how Apollo works or you want to know more about a feature, come check this stuff out. If you want to watch our webinar recording, just click webinars, and we've got every webinar that I've done at Apollo here for you to view. With that being said, if you have a question, please try and put it in the Q&A tab. We have some incredible members of our team. Radha Vaduva, Akshat Dharai, Janet Choi are all here to answer your questions. But if you put them in chat, it's hard for me to see them because there's a lot of questions, a lot of things in the chat. And please don't spam the chat. If you're dropping your LinkedIn link over and over again, if you're trying to sell something, if you're being rude, please don't do that in the chat. I want your feedback. I want to know if what I'm covering is helpful, but I want to create a positive space where people can learn. To that point, if the chat is overwhelming for you, just click on Docs on the right-hand side of your screen and the chat will go away. You'll also have the added benefit of downloading the slides and a guide that we have made for you on everything that I'm covering in this webinar. So I want you all to take 1 second, okay? Click on Docs on the right-hand side of your screen and download the slides and download the resource guide for this webinar, because we're going to go through a lot. We're going to cover a lot, and those things are going to help you implement what we talk about right after the webinar. Okay. So with that being said, let's keep going. I am Josh Garrison. I'm our VP of Product Education and Content Marketing. I've spent my entire career, for the most part, in sales, doing everything from being an SDR to an account executive, a director. I was an entrepreneur. I managed the sales automation for a 60-plus person sales team. And I've been the head of revenue, where I manage all revenue generating functions at a company. And now I'm here to help you guys be more successful using Apollo. So today we're talking about inbound sales. And that's very different from outbound sales. Okay. Outbound sales, we spend most of our time talking about. I've done a ton of webinars on it. There's a lot of content about it. That's all about reaching out to people and proactively trying to get them to talk to you. But inbound sales, to me, is almost the bigger opportunity, because these are the people who are coming to you, right? Instead of you going out, they're the magnet that you've attracted them to your website, and they want to talk to you. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Because most people, I think, understand that the most important rule of inbound sales is speed to lead. They get in touch with their leads quickly. But then after that, there's a whole process that often is very leaky, meaning there's a lot of things missing, and all the people who fall out of the funnel never get back into it, and it creates a wasted opportunity. So on the subject of speed to lead, y'all, if you get in touch with your inbound leads within 1 hour, you're 7 times more likely to have a conversation with them, and something like 8 times more likely to close them than if you get in touch with them after 1 hour. And the reason for that is because inbound leads are still shopping around. By the time they come to your website and request to talk to you, they've already also gone to your competitors' websites and requested to talk to them. So a lot of this comes down to who gets in touch with the lead first, and who has, of course, after that, the best sales process, doing discovery and kind of moving the deal forward and all that kind of stuff. So I want to talk to you about what an inbound lead flow should look like. Okay. So what should happen is a lead visits your website, they fill out your form, they get automatically routed to the calendar of the first available sales rep, where they can book a meeting. And then they should get an email from that sales rep introducing themselves, which will increase the likelihood of that meeting happening. And then the meeting should happen. Okay. But there are problems in this flow. And the problems are as follows. 55% of the people, give or take, who actually go to your site and click contact sales are not going to complete that form. And if you've done marketing for any length of time, you'll know that the longer a form is, the less likely someone is to complete it. The more friction there is at that step, the harder it is to get that form filled out. So you're spending all this time and energy and money getting people to click on your form, and then over half of them don't even fill it out. So that's an issue that we need to address. The second problem we need to address is that 30% of the people who do want to talk to you and who book a meeting on your calendar will no-show, or they'll reschedule. And often that's just lost in the abyss, right? They no-show, they reschedule, and then they no-show or whatever, and we never get back in touch with them. So we need to do something to fix that. And Apollo has 2 products or 3 products that I'm going to cover in depth today that are going to plug some of these holes, okay? So the first one is Apollo's inbound meeting router, which is something we can plug into our website to let people automatically book a meeting with our sales team. And the second thing we're going to do is we're going to use Apollo's plays, which is our automation tool, to automatically sequence the people who do book a meeting and introduce the sales rep to them, which is often a missing step in people's process and is going to increase what we call our hold rate, which is the number of people who book a meeting and actually show up. Okay. And for those of you, I'm seeing Dennis say, hey, people fill out the form and they fill out wrong information. I'm going to show you a way of overcoming that. What we're going to do is we're going to create a process to plug our funnel's leaky bucket, to prevent leaks in our process, right? So anybody who comes into my website and clicks on that form, I want to capture as many of them as I can, get as many meetings on the books as I can, get as many opportunities in my pipeline as possible. So I've actually created this flow chart, which is overwhelming to look at, but I'm going to walk through it with you. And again, the slides are available in the Docs tab, and a guide is available in the Docs tab. I'm also going to run a ticker right now where you can download the slides and the guide while I talk through this. So give me a second to set that ticker up. But this is my ideal inbound sales process, okay? So our ideal inbound lead flow is as follows. A lead visits your website, fills out your form, and at the end of the form, they can book a meeting, okay? So we're going to ask, did they finish the form and book a meeting? If the answer is yes, then we should automatically route them to the sales rep. An email goes from the sales rep. And if they showed up to the meeting, great, we're successful. And what we're going to do is set up some enrichment in our CRM to make sure our contact information for that person is always up to date. But if they didn't finish the form, or if they finished the form but they didn't book a meeting with us, we should be able to add them to a re-engagement sequence where we're like, hey, you filled out our form, but we haven't booked a meeting. Let's talk. And if they end up no showing to the meeting, we should be able to add them to a sequence automatically for people who didn't show up to the meeting and try and get them back into booking a meeting. Does that make sense? So basically what we're trying to do is have the absolute maximum success rate for our inbound funnel. Anybody who comes in, finishes out the form, gets automatically routed to a rep, automatically added to sequence. Anybody who no-shows gets automatically added to a sequence. And that's what I'm going to show you how to build out in Apollo today. But I want to talk really quickly about what it's going to take to pull this off. Before Apollo, it took a lot. We had to have a bunch of different tools, okay? We had to have lean data or something similar, which would route people to the right sales rep. We had to have an enrichment tool to enrich our CRM and our form, like ZoomInfo or Clearbit, which might cost something like 15 grand a year or more. We needed a sequencing tool like Outreach or SalesLoft, another 15 grand. And then you needed a tool to actually allow people to book with your sales team. And that was another 2 grand a year. Add it all up, it's at least 35 grand, plus all the time, energy, and effort to get all these tools to work together. We don't have to do that anymore. We can just use Apollo and get 90% of the way there by stitching together 4 Apollo products. And I'm seeing you guys ask about the inbound forms in HubSpot. I'm going to show you guys how to do it, okay? In a minute, I'm going to show you how to integrate this into Apollo and into your website. Using Apollo and these 4 products, sequences, enrichment, inbound lead router, and meetings, we can get 90% of the way to my ideal ultimate inbound sales process. There's one thing Apollo can't do well yet. And the one thing Apollo can't do well yet is this little part here where we say, hey, if they finish the form, but they don't book the meeting, add them to a sequence. So we can't do that yet. So I'm not going to cover how to do it. We can do everything else, which is 90% of the way. And I think a world-class experience. However, if you guys want to help me help you, I think we can move the needle here. I'm going to run a poll really quickly. And the poll is going to ask you if you want Apollo to tell you who submits the form but doesn't book a meeting. That's going to let us, if Apollo goes and builds that, that's going to let you implement this ideal sales process, which is going to lead to more deals, more opportunities, more everything for you. So say yes to this, because I'm going to share this poll with the product team, and hopefully I'll get this built. While I run this poll, I also want to know, is this helpful? Like so far, the slides, what I'm talking about, is this making sense? And if the answer is no, tell me. What we're going to do next is get into Apollo. So I'm going to get out of slides. I'm going to show you all how to do it. So, okay. Yes, it's helpful. Great. All right. I love seeing that it's helpful. I'm just going to run this for like 10 more seconds, you guys. And then we're going to turn off the poll. Okay. Thank you so much. Poll's closing in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. I really appreciate y'all's help in doing that. It's really useful, to talk to our product team and I say, hey, we need this. And they of course want to have people to talk to and hear what you guys need. So I love being able to give that feedback. Okay. So I'm going to demo a few things in Apollo right now. I'm actually going to show you how to set up and implement the inbound lead router on your website. And then I'm going to show you how to set up and implement sequences using Apollo's plays. So, okay. And people are asking, hey, we can have enrichment based on IP address. That's exactly where I'm going to show. So let me stop sharing my screen. I'm going to do a thing that's going to make it easier for you guys to see what I'm showing. Okay. I'm going to hide my face so you guys can see my screen better. Okay. Can you guys see this all right? Okay. Fantastic. All right. So this is my website. All right. I made a really basic website. It's called ApolloLovesYou.com. It's a real website. You can go to it. And I'm assuming that you guys also have a website. So what I want to do is, you can see this website is completely blank. What I want to do is I want to put a form on my website, and I'm just starting from nothing because I want to show you guys the whole process. But of course, most of you already have a form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use HubSpot to build my form, because I want to have marketing automation, send email blasts to my audience and all this kind of stuff. You don't have to use HubSpot to do this with Apollo, but and I'll show you how to do it just with Apollo, but I'm going to assume you're using something like HubSpot. So what I'm going to do, and keep in mind, y'all, I'm not a HubSpot expert. I'm just a guy. So don't ask me too many HubSpot questions. I'm going to come into HubSpot and I built a form out. All right. And my form is pretty simple. I want their email, their name, the name of their company, the company size, the industry, and their phone number. And I need to get this on my website. So if I go to embed in HubSpot, and go to embed code, I can copy some code, and I can go into the back end of my website builder, and I'm just going to add that code. Okay. And then I'm going to hit update. And what you'll see, HubSpot did not pay for this. This is just me, you guys. Okay. So what I'm going to do is you'll see that if I refresh my website, the form is here now. But this form sucks. Like, if I'm a lead and I come into the site, I'm like, all right, I want to talk to you. But you want me to do what? I got to fill out all this information. Okay, this sucks. Like, big stuff. Here's my phone number. So this is my form, and the form sucks. And this is why people abandon the form, is because they have to fill out all of these fields, and the more fields, the more friction, and the less people who complete it. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to do two things. I want, when people submit the form, to allow them to book a meeting with my sales team. And out of the box, obviously, like, I can't do that right now. And I also want people to be able to fill out a truncated or shortened version of the form using Apollo's meetings, or Apollo's meetings inbound router. We can do that. So I'm going to go into Apollo. Okay. And I'm going to go to meetings, which is on the left-hand side, and it has this little calendar icon, and I'm going to click on meetings. What I need to do is a couple things right now. First of all, I need to create a meeting type where the people who fill out my form can then book a meeting with my team. And so you'll see in Apollo, like, if you've never set up meetings before, there's a wizard. It'll walk you through how to do it. But I'm going to create a meeting type by hitting create. And it gives me a bunch of different options where I can say, hey, I can do a single host. So let's say if I'm a sales team of one, I'm a solopreneur, maybe I have a website. People come to my website, they fill out my form, they book only with me. I can do that. But if I have a sales team, I want to do what's called a multi-host meeting, which is going to allow people to book with the first available sales rep. And you guys remember in my slides, that's my ideal process. I want someone to book with our sales rep as fast as possible. So I'm just going to call this whatever, a test. Let's say it's a 30-minute meeting. I'll hit continue. And now I can choose from the people in my Apollo who've connected their meetings, who's eligible to get inbound leads. Okay. So I can add hosts, and I can say whoever will be the owner, and then I can hit continue. I can do all of these settings just to show when people are available, but then I can create this meeting type. So what I've just done is I've created a type of meeting that I can now embed into my website. So when people finish the form, they can book that type of meetings. Okay. So, or that type of meeting. So now what I need to do is go to inbound routers in Apollo. So quick check, right? I've gone to meetings on the left, and now I've gone to inbound routers. And what I'm going to do now is hit create, and I'm going to hit inbound router setup. I'm going to give it a name. Okay. Now Apollo is putting me through, putting me into this wizard, the inbound meeting router, where I can create a series of a set of logic of who's allowed to book a meeting with my team. So first and foremost, I'm going to hit create form. And what I want to do right now is I want to make this form in Apollo's inbound router the same as the form in HubSpot, so that these two forms talk to each other and they share information. Okay. So in HubSpot, you'll see I've got email, full name, company name, and Apollo, I'm going to do the same. I've got email address, full name. I'm going to hit add input, and I can choose company name. I can hit add input. I can choose, I think the next one here is company size. And then we go industry, right? And I just hit add. And now I can hit add input industry and I can hit add. So I'm rebuilding the HubSpot form in Apollo's meeting routers so that I can map these two forms to each other. Okay. Next I had phone number. Okay. I can also connect these. Yeah, this works the same with Salesforce. We have a Salesforce integration. I'll show you guys that in a second. I can also connect these though. I can map the fields. So when I added phone number, for example, if I've integrated my CRM with Apollo, like if I've integrated Salesforce or if I've integrated HubSpot with Apollo, I can just map this field in the form to the field I want in my CRM, which is what I just did with my phone number. So I have a field in HubSpot. HubSpot calls it a property. I have a HubSpot property called phone number that will map and get populated by this phone number field in the router form. Okay. And then I hit save. So I've just created this. Okay. Intake form fields. Here's all the fields I want to capture. Now I can create some rules on who's actually allowed to book a meeting directly with my sales rep. So you guys were asking me in the chat earlier, like, hey, I don't want just anyone to book with my sales team. I only want good leads to book a meeting with my sales team. This is where we can create the rules to decide who's a good lead and who's a bad lead. Okay. So I can choose ownership rule and I can say like, hey, if the lead is owned by someone, route it to whoever, or I can do an if else rule. And I'll give you an example. At Apollo, like we don't normally let people who have a Gmail address talk to our sales team. And we also typically don't let people who have a Yahoo address talk to our sales team. You have to have a business address. So I just created an if else rule and it says, hey, if email address includes gmail.com or yahoo.com, then, and I'll do this, then send them give them a default message. We're not letting them book with our team, right? We're going to show them some kind of message. But if it doesn't have Gmail or Yahoo, then we can say, let them book a meeting. And now I can choose, remember when I set up a round robin meeting a second ago, I can choose that meeting by clicking shared meetings. Here's my round robin test. And I can just hit save and link to router. So I've just built now a process of logic of here's what the form is. And if it's a Yahoo or Gmail, don't do anything really. Just like save that information. But if it's a really, company email, let them book a meeting with my team. You can do way more than this. There's so many different options. You guys can build this form out to have whatever logic that you want. I'm just giving you a very basic example. So now I need to integrate this form with my website. Okay. So I'm going to hit publish. And it shows me two things here. First and foremost, I can actually just share this link with people. Like if I want to send somebody a form to fill out, let's say somebody hits you up on LinkedIn. They're like, hey, I really want to talk to you. I'm interested in what your company does. How can I find a meeting or how can I set up a meeting? We can just send them the link to the form we just built and they can just fill that out. And then at the end of it, they'll be able to book a meeting. But if we hit integrate with your website form, this is where stuff gets fun. I can actually put this into my domain and we have to enter the full domain here. So I'm going to do this. Remember, I have apollolovesyou.com and I hit enter. I put that in here. Now it says to integrate and activate this on your website, map the mandatory intake fields to your website's corresponding form fields. It's critical that the fields are accurately mapped to ensure proper routing. Remember, we did that at the beginning. I built this form already to map to what I have in HubSpot. So now what I need to do, all this is saying is like, hey, connect these fields to those fields. So this is email. I'll show you. In HubSpot, that first form or field is email. It's just email. The next one is full name. The next one is company. The next one is company size. And then we have industry and phone. Okay. Now, right in the middle of this dialogue, I have this magical little button. It says form enrichment. What I can do, if we read this, form fields autofill. When enabled, Apollo will autofill the map fields with data from Apollo's database, enriching based on input email addresses provided. Here's what this means. If I turn this on, Apollo is going to automatically fill out as much of the form as it can based on what Apollo knows about this person. So if they're in our database of 280 million plus people and they go to your website to fill out the form, we'll enrich the form, we'll autofill it. And that's going to reduce the number of fields they have to fill out. And I'm going to show you guys how that works. There's another setting here. We could have Apollo hide the fields that are automatically filled out. So basically what this will do is make your form look shorter. And when we talk about increasing the number of people who fill out the form, these are the two things that you can do, okay? I think I'm going to hit continue and I'll actually show you guys what this looks like. So where we're at now is we have to integrate this some code into our website. And if you guys aren't comfortable doing this, like, and you have a developer who can help you, you could do that. I'm actually going to do this right now. It's not that scary. There is instructions on how to do this in the Apollo knowledge base. You're going to need to read this article to pull this off, but I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so basically, I'm going to copy this code. I'm going to come back into my website, and I'm going to find in my website settings where I can do code injection. Okay, this is also like the same as the page header if you have a universal page header. Okay, so I'm going to inject the code from Apollo meetings right here into my site. And there's a couple other pieces of code that I need to inject as well that it will give me in the knowledge base article. It's this one and this one. So I have those copied to my clipboard. I'm just going to paste those in right now. And there's one more. And what these two pieces of code do basically is they get the data to flow back into Apollo and back into HubSpot. Okay. So I just added those things to my site. And I'm going to show you guys how this works. Remember before when I had to fill out every field, like that kind of sucked, right? Now, if I put in my email address and it's known to Apollo, then I have every other field that Apollo has data for automatically filled out. So I've just cut down the amount of time and the amount of energy and the amount of effort that somebody who's on my website has to put in to actually book a meeting with my sales team. And I'll show you what happens now. I hit submit. Before, nothing happened, right? Now I can actually book a meeting with my sales team because I integrated that inbound router. So, and Ashley, you're asking for the link to that page. I'll show you in a second. So, I can choose a time, I can choose a date, I can confirm a meeting, and now somebody has gone through, of course, like this broke. That's fine. It broke because I'm using a fake account, but this is a way to absolutely increase the number of people who are going to fill out your form. And it's also going to, it's also going to put those meetings on your sales team's calendar, which is going to increase the number of opportunities that come in the door. Okay. So, that's the first part of this process. Like if we go back to our process that I shared this slides, give me a second here. So if I go back to my slides, what I just did was I walked through how to get the form on your website, automatically route them to the first available sales rep and let them book a meeting. Okay. What I need to do next is create an automation to automatically email the people who do book a meeting. I want my sales rep to email them, right? Because what happens is if you go and book a meeting with somebody and you don't hear from them until the meeting is supposed to happen, more people are going to no show to the meeting. So for those of you asking for this deck, go to the Docs tab on the top of your screen. Click Docs, you'll be able to download the slides. Okay, on the right-hand side of your screen, it says Docs, click there. So I'm gonna show you guys now in Apollo how to create an automation for when somebody does book a meeting with you, email them from your sales rep to introduce your sales rep, okay? So let's do that. What we're gonna do is I'm actually going to come into Plays, which is on the left-hand side of the screen. So if you guys are not familiar with Apollo's Plays is Apollo terminology for automations, okay? And I'll stop sharing. I'll just share the window. For those of you who are asking, is HubSpot required in order to make this work? The answer is no. I'll show you how you can do that without HubSpot. So back in the Apollo meetings tab, I created that router, and I can just, if I don't have a HubSpot form, I can just put this on my website. And that form, the Apollo form, will be, my form. So you don't have to use HubSpot. It's just what I chose to do for this example. Okay, so I'm going to go to plays. So remember what I'm doing now, right? I am now going to create an automation to automatically email all the people who book a meeting with me. So I'm going to hit new play, and I'll show you guys how this works. So this is how plays is architected. Plays allows us to define some logic. When something happens, if it meets certain criteria, do something else. So let's walk through this, okay? When something happens, I'm going to choose, I have two options on the right-hand side. I can base on a trigger or based on a date. I'm going to say this play will run based on a trigger. When a contact is saved or created, then I'm going to do something, okay? And I have to decide, should I do this every time this happens or only once or whatever? I'll say every time. So when a contact is created or when they are saved, I'm going to do something if they meet certain criteria. So I now hit edit filters. All right, this is where things get fun, okay? I am going to source at the very bottom. So I now have access to, right, I have to decide my if criteria. I have access to all of these fields that are available to you in the search tab of Apollo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll to the very, very bottom, and I'm going to go to source, okay? And this gives me all of these sources for the people who I've saved in my Apollo instance, right? If I got them from Apollo, it would be requested from Apollo. If I uploaded them, it would be that. If I imported them from my CRM, it would be this. Apollo gives me out of the box this one, added from meetings scheduling, okay? So I can click added from meeting scheduling. And what this is going to do is it's going to say anybody who booked a meeting using the meetings router, the meeting scheduling tool that we have, is going to have that source. And I'm going to hit save filters. So if somebody is created or updated because they came in and booked a meeting from my form on my site, then do something. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add them to a sequence. And I'll add them to a sequence that's called meeting reminder. And if you guys are not sure how to set up a sequence, then you'll have to go, I did a webinar a couple weeks ago on sequences and everything about sequences. And you can also go to Apollo Academy. We have a ton on sequences. Nick is asking, what if they were already in your Apollo before they booked the meeting? That's the one thing that won't be captured here. So we'll have to create another automation for those people. And I'll talk to you about how to do that. We're going to use stages to do that. And I'll show you in a second. Okay. So this is going to say, hey, send them that meeting reminder. And in the guide that I gave you, if you guys downloaded the resource guide, I'll give you the copy for what this email can say, okay? And we call this like booked a meeting. So I then will hit continue. I give the play a name. I hit save changes. What I've just done is I've created a play that's going to automatically add people who book a meeting using my router to a sequence where their sales rep will introduce themselves to them, okay? So I'm going to pause really quickly, go back to the slides for a second, and take a look at the chat and at the Q&A. Is this useful so far? Like, are you following along with what I'm walking through? Okay. Most people are saying yes. It's great. I'm really glad to hear it. Okay. So if I go back to my window, if I go back to my slides, what I've done, right? I have now integrated the form onto my site where people can book a meeting directly with my sales team, automatically get routed to the first available rep, automatically get emailed from that rep before the meeting happens. I now have to do something for the people who don't show up to my meeting, right? Because all the people who show up to the meeting, like, that's great. But for the people who don't show up to the meeting, I have to do something for them because there's going to be at least 30%, based on my experience, 30% of the people are going to no-show. So I want to capture those people somehow, and I want to email them. I want to automatically sequence them if possible, right? I want to remove the amount of manual work that my team has to do to make this happen. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that really quickly because I am conscious of time. Okay, so what I'm going to do that is I'm going to go to settings and I'm going to go to contacts. We're going to use something called stages to pull this off. Okay, so stages are, I'll show you where they live in Apollo, but stages are basically how we keep track of like where they are in your sales process. And I'm going to create a stage that's called no show. And then I can build a play using that stage to add people to a sequence because they no showed to my meeting. So I'll show you guys how this works. I'm going to hit add stage. It's going to be called no showed meeting. It'll be part of in progress deal cycle for me. And I'm going to hit create. So now I have this stage called no showed meeting. And if I wanted to map that to a field or a deal type, or what is this called? Like a deal stage in HubSpot, I could do that. But so what I've done, if I show you guys where this lives, right? If I'm in Apollo and I open up somebody's profile, this guy, Karan, who works with Apollo, I have this contact stage right here. If I'm supposed to have a meeting with Karan and Karan doesn't show up to the meeting, I can just change that stage to no showed meeting. Okay. So he's now no showed meeting. So I'm going to build a play that uses this stage. I'll show you guys how this works. I'm going to go to plays. I'm going to hit new play. And I'm going to say when this happens, when a contact is updated, and I choose the field, contact stage, I'm on the right-hand side. When the new value is no showed meeting, okay? If I can have any if criteria I want, I don't need it right now because I'm only going to be updating that stage to no showed for people I want to be talking to. Then take these actions. I'm going to add them to a sequence, and I'll add them to the sequence that was for people who were supposed to have the meeting, which I'll just pick one right now, but I'll add them to that sequence. So in the resource guide, again, and I'll show you these in slides in a second, I'll show you exactly how to build this out, which sequence you should be running. Okay, so if I go back to my slides, I now have built this whole process except for one part. I built this all out. I've added to the form, let them book with my sales rep, automatically emailed them from my sales rep. If they didn't show up to the meeting, I've automatically added them to a sequence to try and get a meeting back on the books. So now all I need to do is set up an enrichment for everybody who comes into my CRM to keep their contact information up to date. And I'll show you guys the why and the how of that, okay? So we already did the poll. We already did that demo. So briefly, I want to talk about these sequences that I've been mentioning. They are in the resource guide that you can download in the docs tab. We'll also email this to you. If you have an upcoming meeting with a rep, it should be something like this. Like, hey, Janet, we have a call on the books. If you have any questions or concerns that you want me to know about, please let me know. Really looking forward to speaking with you. I have seen the meeting hold rate increase by 20 to 50%. It varies at company to company just by putting this process in place, right? Where your sales rep emails them automatically and is like, hey, what should I know before we meet? That really helps a lot. For the people who don't show up to your meeting, you just change that stage and then Apollo will fire the play and it'll say like, hey, we had a demo scheduled for today, but I didn't get the chance to see you. When works better for you? By the way, here's a link to my calendar. That sequence is actually really important. The way that sequence is structured in my ideal process is I'll email them on that first day and I'll try and call them right away. But then I email them again in a week, call them a week after that, a couple weeks later. And lastly, on day 50, I break up with them. You're probably looking at this, you're like, Josh, you're out of your mind. This is a 50-day sequence. What? The reason I'm doing that is because often what happens is when somebody goes to your site, fills out a form, they want to talk to you, and then they no-show, it's because they're interested, but they weren't actually ready to buy. And so because they're not ready to buy, they don't want to have the meeting. They're like, this isn't important to me right now, okay? So I don't want to run a really short sequence. I want to run a long sequence to capture them in their buying cycle, and their buying cycle could be maybe 60 days, something like that. So I like to run a long sequence for my no-shows. Okay, so we've now covered almost the whole ideal process, but there's one other thing I want you guys to think about when it comes to inbound sales. I want to think beyond closed won and closed lost. We often just think about like, did I win the deal or not? But really, we should be thinking about the data in our CRM as the engine for our business's growth. Because even if a close lost happens, that just means close lost right now. It doesn't mean close lost forever, right? And if I'm not keeping up to date on that person's contact information, they may change jobs, they may change titles, they may change email addresses, they may get acquired. All different kinds of stuff could happen. And then I'm not able to market to them. Or for the people who actually closed a meeting with me, a deal with me, a closed one, if they change jobs, if they get acquired, and I'm not updating my CRM, then I don't know what happened with them and I'm not able to do a renewal. I'm not able to do marketing automation. So, what I want to do is I want to set up an enrichment between my CRM and Apollo to automatically enrich my CRM every single week so that anybody who comes into my CRM by filling out a form on my site, I'm just constantly keeping up to date on their contact information. Does that make sense? I'm going to look to the chat for a second before I show you all how to build this out in Apollo. Okay, cool. So let's do it in Apollo. I am going to share my screen a little bit. Oops. Okay. So what I want to do now in Apollo, there's a couple things I'm going to need to do to pull this off. And someone's asking, does it cost a credit to enrich from the form? We should answer that in the Q&A. I'm going to go to settings. In order to do an enrichment, I need to connect my CRM to Apollo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into settings and I'm going to go to integrations. And if you guys are not familiar, like I'm not going to cover this in too much depth right now. If you're not super sure how to do this, if you go to Apollo Academy, go to Learn Apollo, I have a course called How to Enrich Your CRM and Create Automations with Apollo. And I actually cover every both CRM integrations we have in great detail. You can also go to our knowledge base. And if you go to the knowledge base and go to integrations, we have a ton of information about how to connect your CRM to Apollo. There's just great documentation here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my CRM, in this case HubSpot, is connected to Apollo and that my contact mappings are set up because I need Apollo to have permission to push information into my CRM. Okay. So once I've done that, should only take a few minutes to do this. I am going to go to enrich, data enrichment. Okay. So once I've connected my CRM, I go to data enrichment, which is right here on the left-hand side of Apollo. And what I do is I can see already what we call the data health center, which if I've connected my CRM is going to tell me how many people in my CRM are missing an email address or how many people in my CRM have changed jobs. But what I can do, if you want details on that, is click CRM and it'll show you. And I can just click this button, schedule enrichment, which I did earlier today. And I hit add new. And what I can do is I can choose, do I want to enrich the people who've changed jobs into my CRM? Or do I want to enrich the people who don't have an email address? And of course, I could do both. I could create one enrichment for emails and one enrichment for job changes. I can set a schedule. I can say, hey, every week, I want you to update up to 5,000 records in my CRM who are missing an email address. And I'm going to give it a name, enrich the goodness, and I can add filters. So I could say, hey, I only want to do this for people who are VPs or above. Or I only want to do this for people who had an open opportunity in the past, and I can use a custom field for that or a stage. Any of the filters available to you in Apollo, you can use. I could say, I only want to enrich the people who came in from the meetings form that I did. Whatever you want to do here, you hit apply the filters and then you hit schedule. And then now every single week, Apollo is going to enrich my CRM and keep my contact information up to date. So we've now covered, if I come back to like, what is my ideal world-class process for inbound sales? I've showed you how to build everything that's highlighted on this slide. And you guys filled out a poll for me so I can ask the product team to build it so we can do the rest of this slide. And that gives you the best, most world-class sales process that I've ever seen and that I've implemented at multiple companies throughout my career and have been very successful with. So that's going to take us, guys, to the end of the slides. We're going to hop into Q&A. I know you all have questions. I want to hear them. I'm going to run a poll right now while I start taking your questions. Everything that I showed you, you all is available in an Apollo Pro or an Apollo Org plan. And if you want to upgrade your Apollo plan to get access to everything I showed you, say yes to that second option. If you're new to Apollo and what I showed you is like, hey, I actually want to talk to a sales rep about this. This was pretty cool. Say yes to the first option. If you want more training on how to use Apollo, give us the third option. And if you want me to leave you alone, give us the fourth option. Okay, with that being said, I am going to come into the questions. So, oops. Okay, people are asking me, Mal is asking, how do you know people change jobs? Is this because of the integration with LinkedIn? No, Mal, we do not rely on LinkedIn for job change data. Apollo has this proprietary network that we use to keep track of people who change jobs or whatever. We have our own methodology. So that's the answer to that question. John is asking, what is the most cost-effective CRM solution that partners with Apollo for a solopreneur where we can build what he showed today? So, John, you could use Apollo as your CRM. It's not the most robust CRM today, but you could do it. And then you wouldn't need to do anything of like the integrating with HubSpot or whatever. Like Apollo is just constantly keeping itself up to date. However, I've always used HubSpot Sales as my CRM when I was an entrepreneur at a bigger company, Salesforce, I think. So, and that's Land's question. Can I just use Apollo as the CRM instead of go high level? I think yes. I think Apollo has everything that you need if you're a small business to run your business on. If you're a bigger company, more sophisticated, maybe you've got 20, 50, 100 sales reps, it's kind of a different story. Sophia is asking, how long should a mailing sequence last for those who filled out the form but did not book a demo? Yeah. So I break the rules here with sequences for my inbound leads. Anybody who was outbound, like that didn't fill out the form, I think you want to be careful about how many times you're emailing them. But people who opted in by filling out your form, like that's free money to me. That's fair game. So I've done like a 7 or 8 step sequence with 4 calls, 4 emails, or 5 emails, 3 calls, something like that. And I let that play out over the course of like 30 days for the people who fill out the form but don't book a meeting. And then remember, for the people who book the meeting but no show, we're going to play that out over like 60 days, something like that. Okay, Leon is asking. So Leon's asking, I want to remake my website and launch it on HubSpot and tie Apollo into it. How would I go about it? So yeah, Leon, totally doable. I would recommend you go to Apollo Academy and you go to any of the 4 courses. We'll have the how to set up your CRM. Or you could just go to the Apollo knowledge base, which I'll run a ticker for in a second, and you could figure out how to do it there. And that actually reminds me, I'm actually going to run a ticker right now, guys. If you want to visit Apollo Academy and see all the content that I've been talking about, I'll send you guys a link to do that. Okay. I'm going to hop to the chat because I've been looking only at the Q&A. Okay. Are you doing something to help, Sam saying, do something to help automate LinkedIn request messaging without causing issues with LinkedIn? How to add delays? I'm actually not sure, Sam. That may be on the roadmap, but I'm not entirely sure. Okay. Okay, Garrett is asking, can you talk about the category where you're creating a new field mapping called no-shows in the example? Yes. So that was called stages, and I kind of went quickly through that. To show you, I have to close this poll. So I'm going to close the poll in like 10 seconds. I'll reopen it again in a minute, but if you guys, if you haven't yet voted in the poll, vote now. If you want to talk to a sales rep about buying Apollo or upgrading your plan, please fill that out. Okay, so I'm going to close the poll in 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I've stopped sharing that. So to answer your question, that's not what I want to do. Okay, I am going to what you asked is like, how did I change that setting? I went to settings and I went to contacts under configurations. And then the first option here is stages. So stages is basically Apollo's way of helping you keep track of your relationship with the people in your Apollo, right? If they're new, like you've never talked to them. If they're approaching, it means you're emailing them currently. If they've replied, it means obviously that they've replied. If they're interested, it should mean that you have a meeting set. And then you've got not interested, unresponsive, do not contact, and bad data. I think all of these are Apollo out of the box. What I did was I created a new stage, because stages are a way, like this is a object, right, or a property that I can build automations from using Apollo Plays. So I hope that was helpful. We cover stages in depth in the knowledge base, where you can just, again, this is the knowledge base. And if you go, guys, the knowledge base is searchable. So if you haven't saved the knowledge base and bookmarked it, I recommend you do. If I just search stage, here's the option for contact stage, and I can kind of walk through that. Okay, so I'll stop sharing my screen. I'll put the poll back up on the screen. And okay, I'm going to stop sharing the Apollo Academy ticker that's running along the bottom of your screen. I want to share another one with you guys. Apollo has a community. So if you want to get connected to other sales professionals, if you want to have access to other people like you who are using Apollo, join the Apollo Slack community. It's free. I highly recommend you check it out. Okay, taking a couple more questions from the Q&A. Can we make it more easy? There's a lot of things to remember and get trained. Working on it. I think sales isn't easy, unfortunately. So we're always trying to improve Apollo, make it more simple. But it's a work in progress. Hardy, can I play the guitar? No, I will not play the guitar before we end the session, unfortunately. When you enrich for a job change, does it keep where they were before so you know where they were before? So Richard is asking this question. The short answer is, unless you've configured your CRM, so like the way most CRMs work, where fields can get overwritten. So there's no concept of like persistence where you're keeping track of like previous job, next job. Of course, Apollo does that, right? Like I can come and find somebody in Apollo and I can look at where they work now and where they used to work. But your CRM probably won't do it. So what you could, it's possible if you're like a CRM wizard, you could set up a process in Salesforce or workflow in HubSpot to like, if somebody changes jobs, create a new field called like old job. And then like you move the old job to that field and you update the new field. I've done this before, but it requires some skill. So it's possible. It won't happen out of the box. Okay, Mao is asking, do marketing people use this tool? Yeah, marketers, revenue operations professionals, salespeople, recruiters, founders, all kinds of people use it. David is asking, do you have suggested sequences for leads who filled out the form or no-shows? The answer to that is yes. So if you look on the right-hand side of the Goldcast window, there's that button that says Docs. And I'll just send the ticker along for this. So I'm going to stop sharing the community link. So like 5 seconds if you want to join the community. I'm going to stop sharing that. And I'm going to run a new ticker where you guys can actually download the guide. So you're asking like, hey, what's the sequence? What should that be? We wrote copy for you. We laid out the sequence structure. It's all here. So if you haven't downloaded the guide yet, download the guide. Okay. I'm going to take a few more questions. Can we monitor our team's activities from Apollo? Yes. You can go into Apollo Analytics, which is on the left-hand side. You can monitor whatever you want to see there, how many calls they've made, how many emails they've made. You could also do that from within the Home tab. So I'll show you really quickly what that looks like. Okay. If you're a sales leader and you want to monitor your team and you go to Home on the top left-hand corner, you can click this drop down. It says Sales Rep Control Center. Go to Sales Manager Control Center. This is going to show you how many emails are sent, how many meetings are set, who has what tasks coming up, how those break down. Like it's got a whole bunch of information here available to you that you can just have at a glance. So highly recommend doing that if you haven't. Okay, we're coming down to the waning minutes of this webinar. I just want to share one thing with you guys. It's my LinkedIn. If you were not connected on LinkedIn, I'd love to connect with you all. I post about what I'm doing at Apollo on my LinkedIn frequently. So I'd highly recommend you follow or connect. And then the same thing with Apollo's LinkedIn. We post a lot about Apollo and what we're doing. So I'm just going to run my LinkedIn for a second, but I'm going to run Apollo's LinkedIn for even longer in just a minute. So highly recommend we get connected if we haven't. Okay, I'll take a couple more questions. Give me 1 second. So the questions are, Ishan, you sent a request 4 webinars ago. I'm so sorry. I'll try and connect with you. Do you recommend emailing? This is from Rosalind. Emailing from a different domain from our primary domain. How many domains do you recommend we have for emailing? Yeah, I think it depends. So it's Apollo has a bunch of tools and features that allow you to send from multiple domains and multiple mailboxes and all of that kind of stuff. But starting in February of next year, I think Google and Yahoo, Microsoft, and all those kind of email mailbox providers are going to get smarter, and they're actively working on getting smarter about tracking what we call cousin domains. So if I was to have like apollo.io and then I was to have apollolovesyou.io, and I'm doing that to send out, different email traffic. If I'm not doing a good job of maintaining that domain, like if that domain doesn't have a website, if that domain like isn't real, right? It may not be that effective for you. So this is like not maybe a simple answer because deliverability is not super simple, but my recommendation is always to follow best practices with your primary domain and send from your primary domain. That's what I have always done, and that's kind of worked for me. So meaning like I don't send a ton of emails, I'm not spraying and praying, I'm not blasting, I'm not spamming, and I keep my domain up. I have a good SEO. Like all of these things can contribute to whether or not email providers think you're legitimate. So okay. My last question, booking a meeting is available in HubSpot as well. If I'm already using HubSpot form and book a meeting in a lot of sequence, what is the use of Apollo right here? So Mangai, I would say you can use Apollo to enrich the form on HubSpot, right? That's the first thing. And then beyond that, you're using Apollo to enrich your CRM. And then depending on where you're doing your sequences, like you could do them in HubSpot. I think Apollo sequences are better than HubSpot sequences personally, but it's totally up to you. Last question, y'all. Nash is asking, we have a different CRM from Salesforce or HubSpot. What's our best option? I would highly recommend you use our Zapier integration, which you can find information about in the knowledge base. That brings us to the end of the session that I have going for you. I know it was a little crazy. I had to step out. I've got painters. I've got all kinds of stuff happening. I appreciate you all bearing with me. I hope it was useful. As always, I really appreciate the time that you spent with us. So thank you all so much. We'll do more of these in the new year. I'll see you all in 2024. Thanks, everybody. Take care.